It would have been easier on my body if he had shot me. He was a coward.
Okay, walk me through this. So you were in like a 30-year marriage. When did you have a D-Day? So this is you thought you were safe in this marriage for a long time.
I thought I was safe in this marriage. So actually, I'm not quite divorced. We've been married for 38 years, although I have not seen him or heard his voice in 3 years. However, the D-Day came in August of 2017.
Yeah.
And the D-Day came about in a very unusual way. My ex-husband had moved to another state for his job.
Mhm.
I had stayed behind where we lived to finish out my work contract. When I moved to the new state, he informed me that he had received a DUI, which was shocking to me.
Mhm.
Even though he did drink, he was not, you know, that was shocking to me. And he told me that his license had been revoked. And I was kind of perplexed by
You
this.
didn't know he drank. You didn't think he had a
Oh,
drinking
no, I
problem.
knew he drank. No, he drank, and
Mhm.
but he wasn't an alcoholic. He wasn't a stumble down drunk. Nothing that he had never gotten a DUI before. He's in his 50s. Nothing had happened. However, then he had to tell me that he was arrested for this DUI in a neighboring state on his way home from a nudist resort.
Okay.
I was absolutely stunned. I was shocked. I was numb. And I can remember this is how chump like I was, Tracy. I can remember Googling, is going to a nudist resort cheating? Because he had insisted that he did nothing.
Of course he did. Of course he did. Right.
I had no inkling. I had never had not one bit of suspicion that he would cheat on me. Absolutely none.
Yeah. No, I believe you. Right. He had a double life. Right.
He led a double life. And so when I heard this, I remember Googling that and I think now, like, what an idiot.
No, you're not an idiot. You trusted him.
I
Why would
trusted
you
him. I
think he
trusted
had a
him.
double life? Yeah.
Yeah. And then from that, um, we used to share computers and they'd be left out. And I said, I never saw any emails from a lawyer. He had hired a lawyer in this other state, hadn't gotten off, had his license revoked. And I said, I never saw any emails. It never came up. Like, where are the emails? And he pretended he couldn't find them when I asked him. And then 10 minutes later, he came in and showed me the emails, but it was obvious that they were imported from an email address I wasn't aware of.
Oh God.
So
Okay.
the next day I did some sleuthing and I knew sort of the format of his passwords. And I opened up an email account in which he had many, many messages off of Craigslist's, going to hotels, going here. Um, my husband's particular form of infidelity was were mostly one night stands with men and with at massage parlors, illicit massage parlors. So
Yeah.
that was the beginning of the absolute shock.
Yeah. Wow. And here you are standing. And how quickly thereafter did you get tested? Because when I'll say a bit about the experience I have with this and even my own experience of being a chump is that it's one of the hardest things about being chumped. And a lot of people resist doing it. And when I'm answering letters or people in the community are responding, we're always like, go get tested, go get tested, go get tested. And believe it or not, it's not the presence of mind. It's not the first thing. The first thing is you're just in shock that this person, you can't believe this person has a double life, let alone that they took such risks with your health, right? That's just never, we just never think that. I mean, it's a bargaining stage of grief, right? You think, okay, they cheated, but surely they used a condom or they took some protection. You know, if it's the other way around, you think maybe they protected for pregnancy. And then they live in a world of magical thinking, right? So the fact that you, the chump, have to go put your feet up in stirrups and go have this invasive exam after years of what you thought was presumed monogamy, it's really traumatic.
It is
And
traumatic.
And a lot of people put it off or don't do it or don't want to think about that aspect. And again, it's not in the public. We don't talk about it. All the discourse is at the broken heart level. It's not at the what's in the petri dish level. What did they do to my internal organs, with their wandering dick?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how quickly did you go to a doctor?
That is very interesting the way you're framing that. I went and he went immediately to a local health clinic for a panel of STD testing, all of which came back negative for both of us for herpes, for gonorrhea, for HIV, all of those. This is sort of why I'm a passionate proponent now of more awareness about HPV. I did not think of HPV. I wasn't thinking of cancers. I was thinking of those other STDs. So it was then about 16 months later that I went for my gynecological exam and had my usual annual pap test. And that is what revealed. And I think for some reason in my head, there was a disconnect between STDs and HPV, which is extremely serious. So initially, within that week, we went to the health center. It was not until 16 months later that I got tested for the HPV.
Wow. And your
Yeah.
doctor didn't say, "Hey, you might also wanna do an HPV screening?" Did you tell your doctor, "My husband's been unfaithful?" Was this like
So the health clinic did not ask me about it or offer it to me, and I didn't think about it. I was in a new city in a new state. I did not have an established doctor.
yeah,
Um, had I been in my previous home where we lived for 22 years, yes, I would have informed my doctor. But I was just getting things. I was so traumatized that I was not thinking
sure.
clearly, too.
Well, it shouldn't be your I mean, you would think a mental health or a health professional
Right.
who's dealing with STD testing would think cancer. It shouldn't be your
Right.
job to be so informed that you know all the terrible things that could befall you. And yet, there's that self-blame. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't ask the right question. I didn't. And so thank goodness you're out there raising awareness so that people will have this at the front of their mind should it happen to them.
Yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah. So you're out there trying to get the message to get vaccinated and all the rest. Good for you.
Right. I think the vaccine is hugely important. I think it has been a game changer in terms of decreasing cancers from HPV. So that is really that is now a passion of mine.
Yeah. So in your case, so you got this bad pap smear,
Mhm.
and then what happened? I mean, did they pull you aside and say, "Hey, we gotta, laser off the bad stuff," or
Well, when I did get the results and that I had HPV 16, and then of course Googled that and found out that it's
oh,
the most oncogenic virus known to medicine. It causes so many. It can cause six different cancers, various forms of HPV. Mine happens to be especially serious. So when I learned that, then I went and was examined and was told I needed a what's called a cold knife cone biopsy,
okay.
and that revealed that I had cervical cancer, I had vulvar cancer, a lesion removed, and I had a full radical hysterectomy a few months later, and hopefully that takes care of the cervical side of it. The vulvar cancer has been especially aggressive. And
Oh,
so I am in treatment for that. Every 90 days, I have my genitals chipped away.
oh God.
Um, I I don't have any labia anymore. So every day I have a physical reminder of the violence that he has perpetrated on my body. Um, and then 3 years ago, I found out that I had anal dysplasia. So
The
now
gift that keeps on giving.
I
Wow.
know, and I hit the trifecta.
Yeah.
But I also have this HPV. Also, I have the risk of head and neck cancers from this, or
Oh,
vaginal. Let's
wow.
hope that I don't get that.
Does he have any cancer? I mean, like,
No,
it would be oh so fair that he's the one who's out sticking his wick out, dipping his wick, I should say, and he doesn't have any cancer.
not that I
Yeah.
know of. It would be poetic justice. He would be. He's liable to get penile, anal, and esophageal from his behaviors.
Wow.
so far.
And you have children together, yeah? You've got
We
kids?
do. We have 4 beautiful children, and they're well launched, and they were all young adults at the time that this came to the forefront. My youngest was in college, and the other 3 had graduated and were living their lives, and it has been a horrible assault on their mental health to find out that the father they thought they knew
Yeah.
was living a double life that was disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of having their own D-days, but to think that they could lose their mother over it. I mean, it's one thing to go through a divorce, to know the dad has a double life. No kid wants to know those kind of particulars, hooker habits or whatever.
Right.
Um, but the health risks to take on that amount of traumatic information and then also worry I could lose my mom, you know.
It's been very difficult for everyone. My 2 of my children were actually with me when, I went to the doctor. I went to Dana-Farber in Boston originally, that's my hometown, and, 2 of my children were with me when I got the results of the cervical cancer, and that, I think, was the worst moment of my life, was seeing their faces when he told me that I had invasive cervical cancer.
I'm so sorry.
I know, that was and meanwhile, my husband was back in his home country of Ireland to comfort his mother because I had told people what he had been doing.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah, because
So
I
his
was
number
open
one
about it.
concern was stopping that narrative from getting out there.
That is exactly it, and I find that's true. Since my story came out, it was originally published in the Tampa Bay Times, and then people picked it up.
Okay.
But I have been contacted by so many women whose stories, like you hear, are so similar to mine.
Yeah.
And in almost every single one, the perpetrator wanted to control the narrative.
Of course they did. Yeah. Of
And if
course.
you saw Belle Burden's interview with Oprah recently, her husband did the same thing, wanted to control the narrative. Let's say it's amicable. Don't tell people about what I was doing. And I knew from the outset, I knew 2 things when I found this out. 1, that I would not be quiet about it.
Mhm.
And 2, that I was not to blame for any of his behaviors. Those were my 2 takeaways.
Amen. Where'd you get this really incredible, healthy sense of self? I mean, I was going to ask, it's funny you should bring up Belle Burden because I did watch that interview and I'm in the process of writing something about it. But the thing
Good.
that kind of struck me, she's very classy about it and she's on Oprah. But I'm gonna offer my chump lady pointer on this. I think it's very interesting that she has to go to great pains, and Oprah does too, to go, but you're not bitter. You're not angry. You had anger, but you slid right past anger. And now you're right into the, aren't you brave? Aren't you a good soldier? And it's like the deserving chumps and the undeserving chumps. And if you're angry about what happened to you, then you're the undeserving person who doesn't deserve the microphone. And if you're righteously pissed, then your story is not as valid. And I that really bothers me. It bothers me as somebody who got jumped. It bothers me as somebody who cares about misogyny and justice that we can't talk about this and we're not allowed to have negative feelings about it. You know?
Ah, you are preaching to the choir. I am absolutely stunned when people want to force positivity on me
Yes.
or forgiveness. I don't need to forgive him. I will that is not I mean spiritually maybe down the line
Not your job. Above your pay grade.
on my deathbed maybe, but he needs to okay, I'm not going to get into that, but that is exactly it. This whole false positivity and I also picked up on that in that interview because I do think the righteous anger is applicable. I think it's motivational. And I think women, especially, need it in order to get a fair settlement, to forward their own interests. I think we need that. And if you can't be mad at somebody who has done despicable things to you, what's
Yeah. Right. You're
yeah,
fighting for your life, quite
right?
literally, because
Yes.
of what he did.
Hmm.
And what, you're not allowed to have a bad thought about it. You're supposed to just skip past that. I just, it doesn't compute to me.
Doesn't compute to me either.
So tell me about the decision to go to the Tampa Bay Times. Like you, it sounds like you made a very conscious decision that I want to raise awareness about this. And I really admire how you framed it too, because I think, and not to say that people aren't going to come at you because they do, but to go like, oh, she's scorned, she's bitter for her, she wants to drag his name through the mud. You're framing this as we need to raise awareness. We need to talk about this as women, what happens to us. And there is this life-saving vaccine out there that people are not getting. I mean, just to interview you, I went down the rabbit hole. I'm like, oh, I'm too old for this vaccine. Would this even, why would I had a serial cheating husband. That risk was, back in the day. Should I get this? And yes, you should. Yes, you
Yes.
should. You may have HPV, but this vaccine prevents the sort, 16 will help you if you come in contact with the terrible kind. So yeah. Who knew? Who knew,
Who
right?
knew? I was actually vaccinated last summer. I'm in my early 60s. And my oncologist now here at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa gave me a prescription for it. And none of the pharmacies here in Florida would fill it. I guess legally they can't.
Oh, stop. Why
Yes.
can't they fill your prescription for an HPV vaccine?
Insurance only covers it up until the age of 45 now. They have extended the age group to 45. And after that, you're sort of on your own. I know that Medicare doesn't even require pap testing after 65, which I think is also ridiculous.
What kind of misogyny is this? Like women don't have sex
Absolutely.
over the age of 45?
Absolutely. That is my point exactly. So actually the health department here in Florida, I had to pay out of pocket for it, which is about $900. It's about $300 per shot. Well worth it though. But I had to go to the health department here to get it, but they did give it to me. And I think these artificial limits on age um, are ridiculous and dangerous.
Absolutely. Are you talking to your Congress people? I mean,
I will
everybody,
be.
call your Congress people. This is insane. This is absolutely insane that you can't
Yeah.
have health coverage for this. That's
Yeah.
just, wow. I admire. So did you just call a reporter? You're like, hey, I have a story I'd like to share with you. Like, how did this happen?
Yes. So I had been doing for the last few years, I have been doing just on my own little tiny TikTok for my little circle of friends. I've been doing sort of public service announcements about HPV and what it causes and when to get it and sort of promoting the idea of vaccines. And then it was International HPV Awareness Day in March. And I had been talking to Moffitt, where I have two oncologists. And I said, well, I might as well see if the Tampa Bay Times will cover HPV, and they did. And if you see that article, they had their photography crew in with me while I was getting 3 anal biopsies,
Oh my God.
and so they were taking pictures and of me in there. There's a blanket on me on one side and the photographer, and then behind me is the doctor taking the anal things, and I'm lying on the bed, and that photo actually, they didn't share the photos with me before they published it. But when I talked to the journalist, I know, when I talked to the journalist, I said, "How were the photos?" And she goes, "Oh, Eileen, they're very impactful." I'm like, "Oh my God, that means I look shitty."
No,
You know?
to anyone listening to this, not looking at a video, you're absolutely gorgeous. But I'm just like, who wants your butt? Like in the Tampa Bay Times.
I was like, you know what? I will shed my privacy in order to light the path for others. So have at it. Put me out there. Whatever it is, it
You
is.
are so brave. I am so impressed with you. But to talk about the chump experience,
Yeah.
and in no way to compare with your incredible bravery here, but I think when you go through this kind of seismic shock in your life, you know, when you discover your life was nothing like you thought it was, that the person that you made this deep investment in is a total and utter fraud, right? With the like that this monogamy you thought you had was completely one-sided. When you suffered that kind of trauma, I think it can go either way with people. I think you can either curl up inside and put the barriers up and like, that's it, I'm done with humankind, or it can create this kind of bravery that you didn't even know exist. I mean, like, you can just be like, fuck it. What else can you throw at me, world? Like, I have been through the absolute worst. So, I mean, what's putting your butt in the in the Tampa Bay Times, right? What
Right.
is it after what you've just been through? I
Yes.
mean, what could the world throw at you that is worse than what your soon to be ex-husband has thrown at you?
Exactly. I think you put that very well too, in that it is traumatizing. I don't want to downplay the the many months, the initial few years where I could not think of anything else. And
Of
I was
course.
trying all sorts of
Yeah.
things. I mean, I was devastated. I am so glad that I have really good siblings and I have a really good cadre of very close friends who were my stalwart supporters. And that was helpful for me to be able to tell my story and to deal with everything I was going through because
Yeah.
it is psychological trauma. Make
Yeah.
no bones about it, as you know, with your experience, as any person who has been deceived
It's not
knows.
just trauma, it's abuse. I mean, that's what I argue, and I get a lot of shit for it.
No,
But I'm like, how could it be anything but abuse? And a lot of times, I'm arguing it's psychological abuse. It's risking your health. In your case, it actually, the health risk wound up with horrific, lethal consequences.
mhm,
So again, how is this not abuse? Explain to me why it's not abuse, therapists, because it is. It is absolutely abuse. You did not consent to having your health risked.
no.
And to anybody who thinks you got it on a toilet seat or whatever, I mean, what are your oncologists telling you? Are they saying it has to be this guy? Like, where else did you get this?
So, yes. So, as I said, I've been married for 38 years now. At the time, it was just over 30 years when I found out. My oncologist in Boston at Dana Farber, who's a world renowned oncologist in this field, when she knew my history, I had been getting pap smears every year since the age of 21 without fail. I had had 4 pregnancies without fail. All of mine had been immaculate.
Yeah.
When I got the HPV test in 2018, and I've been married since 1987, and had been obviously faithful, which he knows too. Um, she estimated that I had gotten HPV in the last, I think at that time it was about 3 or 4 years. She said that was when I got it. So there is no doubt in anyone's mind that he is the source of my HPV, given my history
Yeah.
and my health awareness. And when you talk about the violence, it would have been easier on my body if he had shot me. It would have been easier on my body if he had stabbed me. This is a life altering, lifelong affliction that he imposed on me through his selfish decisions
Yeah.
to be deceptive. He was a coward. He didn't come forward and say, you know what? I'd really like to have sex with men and prostitutes. What do you think?
Yeah.
No, I was kept in the dark, and that changed the entire landscape of, he knew the entirety of our marital situation. I only knew a sliver.
Right. It's a power trip.
It was a
It,
power, yeah.
and
So,
you're useful. You're useful. You're there raising 4 kids. You're
exactly,
the
I helped
front
him
of
in his career.
normalcy. You're
Mhm.
useful. You're a wife appliance. That's what I call it. A
Repeat
wife
that.
appliance.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
You're useful.
yeah, yeah.
You're useful. I mean, and that's to the question of, why do they cheat? Why do they cheat? Because they're, again, I'm beating up on what I call the reconciliation industrial complex. But what they try to do is tell you that, well, he had a failure to communicate. He just didn't tell you he was into massage parlors or whatever he was up to. No, he wanted the uneven playing field. It is good to be king. It's sexual entitlement. That's his high. That's what he's after. Is, rules for thee but not for me. I can act with impunity. you are monogamous. You have to devote all your resources and care and labor to me, but I do not have to reciprocate. That is winning if you're a sick motherfucker, in my opinion, right? um, and I lived it. I read the stories of people who lived it, and I can only conclude that it is abusive and that it is a power trip. It's a power trip. And he would have kept doing it had it not been, I guess, for a DWI or something. He got tripped up in it. It's not like he came to you, it sounds like, one day and go, oh, I've been risking your health. Oops.
There was never, in fact, any of the revelations that came after the DUI um, were because I had found something either on the computer or whatever, and then quizzed him. He would never, ever have told me this. And in fact, had it not been for him losing his license, I would never have known about the DUI. He set up a secret PO box for it. He paid the attorney separately. I would never have found out about it. So thank goodness he got a DUI in which no one else was injured, um, because that started the ball
That's how
rolling.
you found out.
Right, but you are exactly right about the power trip. It is all about, it is an abusive situation when people don't realize that infidelity is abuse. That is also mind-boggling. It
Yeah.
is not he my husband in particular, he when we went to marriage therapy, he actually was saying, "Oh, it's a marital problem. It's a marital problem." And I would retort every single time, it's a character problem. And it's your character problem.
Amen.
This was
Yeah.
not a marital problem. Never. So,
So this is after D-Day you went to marriage counseling? Is that what he
yes,
was trying to say? This is a marital problem?
yes.
So
Mhm.
what exactly did you fail to do? You failed to be 1,000 different orifices. What was your what did you do to compel his dick to wander? Please tell me what he
I
thought.
guess I didn't have my own dick.
Okay, but you can't be many dicks. There's a whole dick
Can't be
buffet.
many dick.
I
No,
mean,
there is, I think, um, I really don't know. He never said what I didn't do so much as, that he wanted to spread the blame.
yeah, marital. Where the two people are in a marriage, dude.
Yes.
So how is this a marital problem? I mean, it's so all purposely vague, isn't it? But
It's blame shifting, and I think so many people do the blame shifting, and I think, as you say in your book, when they want to blame the victim, what didn't you do? Where were you lacking? Did you let yourself go? He did tell me that too. Um,
what?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. Wow.
yeah. Yeah, that was a nice
He's the
thing to
total
hear.
package, isn't he? Just
He told me that right after I had my hysterectomy. I let myself go. So, yeah.
did your friends and family just drive this guy to Ireland with a pitchfork? Because I'm just thinking, like, who like hears this story and doesn't want to? My head is going dark places, and I won't say it. But I mean, did he run for his life?
No, he proceeded to act as he had always acted. And of course, my family did sort of come after him with pitchforks. His family circled the wagons and wanted to protect him at all costs at my expense too. Eileen, if you would only be quiet, if you would only shut up, we'd support you. If
What?
you kept this quiet and you didn't tell anybody, because we told his parents, we went to Ireland to tell his parents, and his siblings accused us of trying to put them in the grave, because we were, and I said, nope, he led a secret life. He's not having one life in America where people know about it, namely my family and friends, and another life in Ireland where he's still the conquering hero. He's the educated man who went on to have success in the US. That
I,
is not happening. We
I,
he
can I just stop you here for a second? I'm so like, I mean, I wish, again, this isn't the only time I've heard this, but their discomfort at knowing that their son or brother has a sex worker problem, we'll just put it there.
okay.
That discomfort is more important than you not having genitals and having cancer. Like, we're going to weigh the pain Olympics here. We're going to weigh, like, what's more painful? A bad thought, some discomfort, or your health and being like maimed and scarred by this guy. I mean, if you want, like, to me, that's like, who's more valuable here? That just shows the entitlement to me.
It does. And my mother in law's response when we sat down with her and told her what he had been doing, and we sanitized it for her.
Yeah.
And her first response was, "You're not going to go tell anybody, are you?" That was her primary concern, that this
Wow.
not get out. And I told her, "No, that's not the playbook we're going by." I said, "We are going to be open about it," because at that time I was sort of under the impression that he could work on things, give up that part of his life, and could be the man that he had always presented himself to be, where he was attentive father in certain ways, and he was a decent husband in certain ways. But that was his veneer.
Yeah. Right.
That was not the truth. That was not the authentic whole. He I also remember my therapist, our therapist, telling us at one time that you know my husband had this bad part of him, but basically he was an okay guy. And
Guy.
I
Wow. Okay.
right, because
Holy shit. He's an okay
exactly,
guy.
exactly.
All right.
And I just replied and I said, he has no integrity. And he said, "Well, he's ethical. He's not going to steal money." And I said, "No, no, no. He has no integrity. What he thinks
He stole money from you. I wasn't
yes
going to go there because it's so minor compared to giving you
is, yeah,
anal and vulval cancer, but he stole money from you. To have a double life is to divert assets to yourself. It sounds like he has
bingo.
a separate everything, a separate lawyer, a separate account, a separate, you
Right,
know, a slush
right,
fund to pay sex workers. I mean,
exactly.
that is dissipation of marital assets. I mean, how is
Yep,
that not stealing? I'm just
exactly. Well, these are some of the things that you address too when you're talking about therapists when they're trying to do the reconciliation aspect of it. And well, here are the good parts, here are the bad parts. But I was like, when you have no integrity, and that's a whole being situation when what you think and what you say and what you do are aligned.
yeah,
He didn't have any of that. So what he would say was far different from what he was doing. "I'm faithful to you, Eileen. I love you. We'll do this. We have a life together." All of that meant nothing to him because he had no core, no substance, no moral compass.
right. Yeah, no, I was married to one of those freaks too.
I'm sorry for yours.
Yeah, no, I get it at like a deep level. I wonder if that therapist or anybody listening to this story, it would be like, my husband punched me in the face. You know, every so many days he punches me in the face. And they'd be like, "Yeah, but he's got good qualities. He's not stealing from your
Yeah,
pocketbook, but he
yeah,
punches me in the face." I mean, I think anybody who's been chumped, anybody who's been to a D-Day, and not the calamitous one that you've had, but anybody who's felt that pain would much rather be punched in the face. Because being punched in the face is an open transaction. I know you're trying to harm me. You punched me in the face. And everybody around would understand that you just punched me in the face.
oh,
But to sneak around and to risk your health and to keep that power imbalance going for decades is so much more grievously harmful. And we don't talk about it and we don't see it in those terms. We see it, as I said, Esther Perel says, an exuberant act of defiance and a quest for aliveness. And we romanticize abuse, which is abuse. It's abuse. It's abuse. It's abuse.
that makes me sick that that would be the attitude towards this. That makes me sick.
But it is. Isn't that what you're experiencing?
Yes, yes, and it's a kick in the gut after you've already been. I was kicked in the genitals, but yes, it's a kick in the gut to hear that sort of, I don't know what you would call it, but false presentation of infidelity.
Yeah, but it's the narrative out there. It's how I became Chump Lady because I was so sickened by it. I was so like mad. I'm still mad at it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I get really emotional talking about it. It's terrible, and you know, To think that like a sibling would go, "You're gonna put me in a grave." Like, you're literally being put in the grave.
Yes,
You
he
know,
has
like
shortened my life. He has
yes.
shortened my life. I am going to die from one of the cancers he gave me. If that is not domestic violence, if that is not abuse, tell me what is. As I said, I would have recovered more quickly from a stab wound or a gunshot than what he has done to my body.
So tell me what's going on. So people are calling you, people are like, "I've lived this." Like, what's
Yes,
your next step? Are you going on a speaking tour? Are you gonna raise awareness or like agents flocking to you to write a book? I'm like, what's going on?
it has garnered so much more attention than I thought it would. And from that little nugget of an article, which was excellent in the Tampa Bay Times, to being contacted now. The Farrah Fawcett Foundation reached out to me to be involved with them. A group in New York City, the HPV Cancers Alliance, has asked me to work with them. And I think that I also, at some point, will write a book. I love that you wrote a book about yours. I know it's about 10 years old now, your book.
Yeah, it's gonna be reissued in the fall. I
Oh,
didn't write about my experience. I mean, it's sprinkled in there, but pretty
yeah,
much it's like jump lady advice about what to do if this happens to you. That's just, don't accept the blame and
right.
expect that they're gonna try to, change the narrative and say stupid things. And yeah.
I think I will use this platform for however long it lasts to promote um, the awareness of the HPV vaccine and for getting screenings. And also, I might just tag along on your coattails too, because I think this is abusive and it is domestic violence. And I am absolutely aware of that. And I am exhibit A.
You are.
I am exhibit A.
You are a very strong example. And I commend your bravery. I really do.
Yeah. It's, I, prior to this, I was a pretty private person. And, yeah, no, I am whipping off if I am whipping off my pants for the photography crew at Tmhym Times, there is nothing I won't share, you know? So,
If
if
you
I
can
could tell
share your
people
butt, you can share anything.
so it was so funny because when this was a few months ago, but I got involved with the Anal Cancer Foundation, not the Farrah Fawcett Foundation, another one, and they sent me a little gift package, and one of them was a hat, like a ball cap, that said "Anal Cancer Thriver" on it, and I'm like, okay, that's where I draw the line. I am not wearing that in public.
You have a boundary.
I have a boundary, and that is it. I do not want to be walking the streets of Tampa and have people go, "Anal Cancer Thriver." Huh.
I thought you were going to tell me they sent you like butt shaped chocolates or something.
No, that I'd eat. No, I have no problem.
You need to get with our marketing people. Like,
I know that's what I'm kind of like. I cannot believe you actually somebody came up with this idea and you followed through. So
and they sent it out to you.
they
Well,
sent it out, and my brother goes to a cigar bar. He's a lawyer here in town. He goes to a cigar bar. He wore it just to see reactions. I'm like, oh my god.
there is a perfect gift.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap. Thank you so much, Eileen. I am so impressed with you, and I
Oh,
know
thank
we're going
you.
to hear more from you. Keep singing your song. Keep telling
Thank
people.
you. I'm happy to come on again. If you ever have any other situation that I
Absolutely,
can do, I would love to because this has been a joy. I was a little nervous about doing it, my first podcast,
Billy.
but
I'm your first.
this is
Oh,
yeah, you're
okay.
my first podcast and you have made it so great. And I think that we are simpatico with how we approach this issue. And one last thing, did you read that court case in New York?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, this is extremely fascinating. There was a court case that just came out late 2025, maybe December or early 2026, where a judge in Nassau County, New York, awarded a woman 100% of marital assets because her husband had infected her with herpes and HPV. She got cervical cancer. And the judge, his name is Edmund Dane, declared that it was domestic violence. And he also said that it was a gross violation of marital behavior. And so he gave her 100% of the marital assets. But the bigger thing is that I think it changes the legal landscape in affixing domestic violence to this sort of situation.
Yeah, more of that, please. I hope it isn't overturned on appeal. Yeah,
I hope not either, but this is a step forward. That is what we need. We need more legal consequences for people who behave in this manner.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. Love your platform, and I think you're doing great work. And I'm sorry we're chumps, but you know what? We're getting beyond the chumps. We're
You are
yeah,
mighty.
mighty. I know. I like that too.